Hello, Gothic literature lovers and horror fans. I am J.S. Larmore, aka Jax, and today in the studio I have Sabrina Voerman. She is the author of the Bloodbound series. The first book, Blood Coven, is coming out in September. So, without further ado, welcome to Ravens and Writing Desks. Sabrina Voerman, welcome to Ravens and Writing Desks. I'm so excited for you to be here. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you about the Bloodbound series and hear more about your writing process. We're colleagues at Quill Crow, but I haven't really gotten a chance to get to know you that well. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your hobbies and your life and what you do besides writing.
Yeah, for sure. So as we said, I'm Sabrina. I'm from Canada, the West Coast. I'm on Vancouver Island. I really love doing hiking. That's like my thing, which is why I'll never leave this island. I also really love reading, which you can probably tell by my bookshelf.
Absolutely.
Those are my two biggest hobbies aside from writing itself. And yeah, I mean, I've just kind of been finding myself in my writing, and you know, as I change, my writing's changing, and that's also a hobby in itself, is kind of discovering who you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And when I started out, wrote fantasy almost exclusively and then some sci fi. And now I write horror and Gothic literature. So, I totally get that, and that's awesome. I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about your book that's coming out. When is it coming out? The first book in the Bloodbound series. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Blood Coven is the first book in the Bloodbound series, which is a book that has already been out, but it's being republished with Quill Crow with a new title, new cover. It's being re-edited. It's got new scenes. It's got a lot more to it now, which is kind of reminiscent of what I just said about my writing's changed as I've changed, and that development that's been still ongoing. I think that always is ongoing.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, it's coming out in September, the first one, and then there's 4 books in the series, so September, and then they'll just keep coming.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the genre, the characters, the storyline
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Blood Coven?
yeah. So Blood Coven is a dark fantasy. It's got elements of horror. I think the genres you talked about, they all cross over so nicely. So like Gothic
Oh, yeah.
literature, horror, fantasy, they all lend themselves so nicely to each other, and you can just play off of them. But essentially, Blood Coven is a very loose retelling of Red Riding Hood. I think all of our stories and like our origin of storytelling comes from fairy tales, and those kind of frame us who we are as kids. And so it was really fun to take a story that we all know so well and expand on it and see what kind of lore I could create and bring into it. So we've got Red, who's the main character, and she doesn't have the best life. It's not easy on her, and she ends up with a coven of witches, and how this sisterhood comes together, and essentially it's a lot about empowerment. That's kind of one of the main elements you'll find in all of my books, but Blood Coven especially. And then there's also a secondary storyline that goes alongside with it, so it's a back and forth between past and present.
Okay.
And so there's a whole handful of interesting, very morally gray characters throughout. And I think anybody who likes werewolves and witches and all those fantasy supernatural elements can find something in this book and the series.
It sounds fantastic. Yeah. That sounds right up my alley. I love all that. Morally gray characters. Who doesn't love those, right?
They're all the rage.
Yes, they are. So that sounds awesome. How do you have an idea of how long it's going to take for the series to come out, or have you written much more of the series? How's that going?
Yeah, so actually, the entire series is written. I wrote start to finish all the books before I even considered publishing because, oh my God, the amount of stuff that changes. When, I added book 2, which wasn't really that connected, and then I I did a subtle connection. So there's a the third book ties it together even more. And so I had a lot of work on my hands when I did this, and I'm so glad I had all of them written before I did anything with them, because the first book, Blood Coven, has changed so much since I first wrote it. It's not even, it's like maybe a seed that is the same, from what it was and what it is now. But I believe the books will come out. The first one coming out in September, and then I think it's every 6 months after that. I could be a little bit off on that, but they're going to come out pretty consecutively because I don't have to write them all. I have to
Right.
edit them and work on them, but they are written start to finish, and it feels like a huge weight off my chest to
Yeah.
not have that pressure.
I think that will make the people who read the books and become fans of them really happy too, because I know it's always awful when you're reading a series and you have to wait and wait and wait for the next book to come out, and you're like, come on.
Yeah,
So that's
I
awesome.
I
I
will
like that.
not I will not pull a George R. R. Martin on anyone.
Everybody will be grateful for that.
I hope so.
So tell me, I always like to know people's writing processes. What do you do when you sit down to write? And on the small scheme and on the big scheme, are you a pantser? Are you a plotter? And then how does your actual process go when you sit down to your computer and get ready to write?
Absolute chaos, start to finish.
I love it.
But
Here for
with
that.
that said, some people write like scenes here and there and then piece it together. I cannot do that. I have to write chronological, but my writing process is havoc, sheer havoc. Because the second I start plotting like in a notebook,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'm like, I don't like this story anymore because I don't know the characters. I can't decide what they're gonna do until
Yeah.
I've written them. So they kind of tell me what they're gonna do. I can know major plot points, but I can't, a lot of fantasy writers, they're plotting so in depth because they're world building, they're religion building, everything.
Yeah.
That is not my process, but I find a lot of when I'm writing and when I'm writing consistently with like not giving myself breaks, it 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 pieces itself together, and by the end I'm going, oh, I connected those two things where I didn't notice it until I got there, that I bridged these themes together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in between because I like to plot out my world building. I
Mm-hmm.
do crazy research, just notebooks and notebooks full of stuff where I've gone down rabbit holes. And then when I sit down to write, I just let my characters, I'm like, you guys tell me what's happening. We're just gonna go for it. But like the world building, and most of it probably won't ever even show up in the book, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm a mix of the two.
Yeah, I think part of it, I am a mixer. Especially when you're writing a series, you kind of have to have certain plot points. I never knew all these stories were going to come together, but when they did, I was able to go back and put in things that connect it, that by the time you get to the end, you go, oh my God, that's what that was. So I almost retroactively plot.
Yeah, that makes
Something
sense.
like that.
That makes sense. I like the chaos theory. What about when you're writing? Do you listen to music? Do you like silence? Do you like to snack? Do you not snack?
Coffee and mostly instrumental music. I have a playlist that's about, God, probably like 4 to 8 hours long of instrumental music. I listen to a lot of music from the show Vikings.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so a lot of Wardruna. It's not the music that my worlds are kind of based in. They wouldn't listen to that music if they were listening to
right,
music. But there's just something about it that just feels very like feral and carnal and like witchy, that it gets me into the headspace of writing.
right. I love Wardruna.
Yeah, oh, so good.
So good. I know they're one of my favorites to write to too. And there's another one, Fawn. They're a German folk rock band, and
Okay.
like I do the same thing. I listen to a lot of like mixed genre folk music, and when I'm
Yeah.
writing, it's mostly instrumental. But like just on the regular, that's like my genre is mixed genre folk music, and people are like,
Mm-hmm.
"What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "It's awesome." So Too
It's
bad you don't get
eclectic.
it. Yeah, that's right. You just
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have other books out besides this series, or is this all that you've been working on for ever? You said you've been writing forever, so
I have been, and a lot of fear held me back from publishing. It wasn't until COVID hit that I kind of took those leaps. And so the first two books in the series had been self published, and now they're being republished, as I said. So they're out. They cannot be purchased anymore. But don't worry, they're coming back even better and bigger and more beautiful. And then I have a bunch of short stories out. So that's actually how I first discovered Quill and Crow was um, I have a writing group and they all came together and we would share submissions that are open, and they had one that fit a story I had kind of already written. So then I tweaked it and changed it and made it fit their theme, and they accepted my short story. And so I really like the process that happened.
which anthology were you in? Now that you say that, I remember you being published in one.
Yeah, so it was Carnival Macabre.
Okay, yep, I remember now.
Yeah, and I had a short story, Sober Key, and that was kind of the
I love that
stepping off point.
story. I love
Oh,
that
thank you.
story. Yes,
That
because I
one's near and dear to my heart.
I recently just finally finished all of Carnival Macabre because I was backlogged on all
Yeah,
of the anthologies, and I love that story.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that one. And a couple others have come out since then, because that was kind of the stepping off point for me going, oh, other people like my stuff. It's not just me. Other people want to read what I have to show.
Yeah. So, have you just write like novels and short stories? Do you do poetry? Do you participate in the crow calls at all?
I wish I could say I could do poetry, but it's never been in my wheelhouse. I have one poem in the second book, and that just about killed me to write. I can appreciate poetry, and I think if I took some university courses, I would be able to maybe try my hand at it. But as much as I love it and think it's beautiful and such a great expression of emotion, I just don't have it in my roster.
That's okay. Some people, and your writing is beautiful though, and it's very, you have the prose. So I think that you probably could if you
Oh,
gave
thank you.
yourself a chance. But some people just don't want to, and that's fine. And I haven't in a long time. I used to do the crow calls every single day. That's how I got involved with Quill and Crow. Was um, I can't even remember. I keep saying it was number 2, but I think it was number 3, volume 3 that I was in first. But and then all the consecutive ones since then. But yeah, that's how I started out. And then um, I have a story in Grim and Dread,
Okay.
and then Haunted, and now I just had one come out in Bleak Midwinter, volume 2.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna submit one to that, but I didn't have the story done to what I thought was a level that I wanted to share. So if another call like that came out similar, I could probably tweak what I have. But I wrote it on a whim, and I was like, it's not ready.
I really wanted to be in a Carnival Macabre, but the story I wrote, it was just, I think it was too on the fantasy side to be
Okay.
included with the stories that went in it, because it was not quite a Peter Pan retelling, but kind of a nod at Peter Pan, and
Yeah.
so it was a little more fantastical than the rest of the stories in the book, I think. But that's okay.
Still, that sounds like it would have a home soon.
I am working on a collection of my own
Oh, okay.
short stories because I have like 10 that are just backlogged, and then
Yeah.
I'm working on finishing some more to fill it out. But when I have time to finish it.
I love that. I mean, there's only so much time in a day. We do our best, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so tell me, you said you like to read a lot. Who are some of your favorite authors?
So I'm a little weird when it comes to authors. I don't necessarily have favorites. I genre hop. So I can read romance, horror, fantasy, you know, general average fiction, whatever. I'd say the person I have most on my shelves is Stephen King and Margaret Atwood, but they're very prominent authors and have been for
Yeah.
decades. So it's easier to have more of their books. But my favorite book actually is The Martian by Andy Weir, which is not horror. It's high sci-fi, which is not my thing, but just I love a good comedy. Like I love something
Oh,
that's
yeah.
gonna make you laugh out loud, and that book really does. So I hop all over the place with genre.
Okay. I haven't read that one. I'm gonna have to check that out. I
I
do the same
highly
stuff,
recommend it.
except I don't read romance. It's just I don't know. I just don't ever get into it. But light
I
romance I
don't
can
read it.
do.
Yeah, if romance is part of the story, I think that is awesome. I think I only read like an exclusively romance book if it's like a queer romance, because that just I don't know, you're so saturated with like hetero romance
Oh
in
yeah,
everything, and so it's like it's nice to have something,
yeah.
I
I
don't
totally
know.
agree.
They're different stories, right? And
Yeah,
they're stories that need to
absolutely,
be told.
absolutely. And the diversity that's finally coming out into the uh, industry is it's
Yeah.
amazing, and I'm here for it. So, and I
Yeah.
love that Quill and Crow is here for it. That's one of the big things I
Yes.
love about the company. So it's
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. Let me think. What else? What are you doing? That's a question I like to ask. What are you doing on your own to market? I know that Quill and Crow helps, and I work in their marketing team, so their marketing team is amazing. But what are you going to do on your own as marketing?
Marketing is one of the hardest parts. It's like
Absolutely,
I
I
feel
agree.
like there's this awkwardness with being an author where you're like, I don't. We're weirdly humble,
Yeah,
and so we don't like pushing. And I know I need to, but I'm thinking of reading different variations of Red Riding Hood because I think there's so many years of stories, and I have like stacks of Red Riding Hood or just fairy tale books, and reading how they've changed. And like Angela Carter's The Company of Wolves is such a good variation that I, I mean, I think it would be a nice double bill with Blood Coven.
yeah.
But I think I know getting out there like different feminist versions of Red Riding Hood would be a really good way. And then of course my roommate works for one of the biggest bookstores in Canada. So
Oh, very cool.
I kind of have an in with chapters.
That's lucky.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really lucky.
Yeah. So then you can maybe potentially do some readings there or get your books on the shelves there.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I actually worked at two of their stores, so two of them I definitely have ins, and then theoretically beyond that, across the island, hopefully the mainland as well, the big scary mainland.
Big scary mainland. In-person marketing is awful. Like as hard as online marketing is, in-person marketing is so much worse. It's
I I think I'd be okay because I've done some marketing with my book, right? Like I've, getting into like bookstores. I know a lot of the bookstore owners, not just my roommate, but like the small bookstores, because I've been part of this community for my whole life. So I'm good at things like that. And then, now that COVID's kind of not as prevalent, I
yeah.
can do signings. I can, it would be really cool if, because my book has like a werewolf, a very particular werewolf. I My old boss co-owns a brewery called Wolf Brewery. And so I kind of
Oh,
want to do a partnership, like, like get a beer with the book or something. I don't even drink, but it would be cool.
we did a pop-up bookstore. My writing group here did that at the local brewery, and it was a lot of fun. And,
Yeah.
and we'd like to do it again. And that was a fun one. So that's a good idea, especially considering the name of the brewery. So, yeah, I know a lot of local businesses are doing stuff like that now, especially if you're in a very cultural city or area, which
Yeah.
I am. They were very big on music and theater and
Yeah.
local artists and stuff like that. So it
Yeah.
sounds
Here
like
too.
you're in a
It's,
good location for that. So that's good.
yeah. Yeah. And then hopefully it's still nice out when the book does come out. September, October are still generally pretty nice because I'd love to do some like outdoor things, because particularly photos of my book in the forest.
Oh yeah, that
because
would
the
be
forest
awesome.
is such a big part of, the magic in this world
Yeah,
I've created. The forest is like where it all comes from, and I got that idea essentially from being in the woods and how magical it is being out there.
I love that because oh my god, I love being out in the woods. That's my comfort place when I need to recharge. I'm like, I just need to go out there and be alone in the quiet, and it feels magical, like it's connected to something ancient. And so I
Yes.
love that you felt that too, and that's why you wrote that story. So that's exciting. I really want to read your Red Riding Hood story, so I'm excited about
Thank you.
that. Yes. So I have a game to play if you are for it.
Yes.
It's kind of silly. Okay, it's called Gift Master, and I'm going to give you three magical or mythical creatures or monsters and three gifts. And you have to decide who gets what gift and tell me why you're going to give it to them. And then I'll tell you who I'm going to give which gift to and why I did it. And then
Okay, so three creatures, three gifts. Why? Okay.
yeah. And then we'll do 3 rounds. So I think it goes like the first one's pretty easily, like you would. It seems pretty simple which ones you would give to who, and then it gets a little bit more difficult as you go.
Okay.
Okay, so round one, the monsters are Dracula, Bigfoot, and Mothman,
Okay.
and the gifts are a Himalayan salt lamp, a crystal decanter, and a selfie stick.
Ooh, okay. I would give the salt lamp to Mothman because it's glowing. I would give the decanter to Dracula because you put blood in your best decanter
Of course.
naturally. And then the other one, a selfie stick for Bigfoot because, the photos that they take of Bigfoot are just god awful.
Okay, those are. I did exactly the same thing for the same reason. It's like his pictures are always blurry.
Yeah.
Poor Bigfoot. Okay, round two. Queen of the Sealy Court, Wolfman, and a clay golem. And the gifts are paintbrushes, a thesaurus, and a pagan wheel of the year.
Oh God, I feel like I need to write this down. Wait, hold on. Okay, so we've got the queen, we've got a golem, and we've got a wolfman.
Yeah.
Okay, and the items were a paintbrush.
Mm-hmm. A thesaurus and a pagan wheel of the year.
Okay. This one's a bit harder. I think I would give the paintbrushes to the golem, to be completely honest,
Okay.
uh, because I'm just thinking like painting clay.
Right.
Is
That
that
makes
weird?
sense.
Am I
No,
okay?
that makes sense. I can see your reasoning there.
Um. mm, Okay, I gotta admit, I don't know what the queen is.
The Queen of the Sealy Court, the
Yeah.
Fairy Court, but not, but like,
Oh.
so there's the Sealy Court and the Unsealy Court. So the light and the dark fairy court should be the Sealy Court is the light side of the fairy court, and then the Unsealy Court is the darker fairies, eviler fairies.
Okay. Okay. And my last two items. I'm sorry, I have the memory of a goldfish right now.
It's okay. A thesaurus and a pagan wheel of the year.
A pagan wheel of the year.
Yeah, it's essentially a calendar.
Oh, okay. I would give that to the Wolfman because moon. He's got to know
Yes.
when the full moon is,
Okay,
and
good.
then the thesaurus to the Queen, but I don't know why.
Okay, so I also gave the pagan wheel of the year to the Wolfman because it tracks the lunar cycles. Um, I originally gave the paintbrushes to the queen because fairies are into beauty and art and music, and but now that you had given the paintbrushes to the golem, I gave him the thesaurus because um, they are obedient and you have to be very careful about what you tell them to do.
Right.
But now that I think about it, And you saying paint clay, I was like, well, that makes sense. And fairies can't lie, but a thesaurus would allow her to twist the
Manipulate what
truth.
she's saying.
Yeah, so I was like, well, that might make more sense. So I kind of like your answers better than mine.
They're interchangeable.
Yes, that was a good one. You did good on that one. Okay, the last round is a griffin, a centaur, and a fawn.
Okay.
And the gifts are a jewelry box, blue jeans, and orthopedic shoes.
Ooh. Okay. Who would I give the shoes to? I guess the fawn, because the centaur's got 4. And the fawn, I feel like your ankles would hurt, your knees would hurt based on the leg structure.
I can see that, yeah.
Okay, and then we've got, okay, so the centaur and the griffin need something. What were my other 2 items?
Jewelry box and blue jeans.
Okay, blue jeans to, oh, I guess blue jeans to the centaur, and then we'd bring up that debate again about like which way would a dog wear pants or which way would a
Yeah.
horse wear pants, because we got to bring that back up. And then the jewelry box to the griffin. I don't actually know a lot about griffins. I don't know if they're not like dragons where they like hoard coins or anything.
So
Because they're elegant.
I did give the jewelry box to the griffin because they guard treasure. So
Okay.
they
Okay.
would be put in place of as a guard, not to hoard, but to like protect. I couldn't really decide on the shoes of the blue jeans because I didn't know how a centaur would wear his blue jeans.
But you know he would wear them well.
He
With
would.
so
He would
much
look
pride.
fantastic in them. But I don't know if he wear them on his back legs or his front legs.
Honestly, I think the back legs.
I want to say that too because
your jeans cover your butt.
That's true. Yeah, and they wear like sometimes you see them. They might be bare chested, but sometimes you also see them wearing like battle vests on their top
Yeah.
half. So yeah, I guess I'd give the blue jeans to the centaur and the shoes to the fawn. That makes sense. Okay.
I always think of Mr. Tumnus when I think of a fawn.
Me too. He's the best one. Sometimes I think of I can't ever remember his name though. The one from Percy Jackson, but I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
I think I didn't read those. I was like a little bit too old when they came out. My little brother loved them though.
Yeah, I read them, but only because Logan Lerman played Percy Jackson, and I love him as an actor. So I was like, I'm going to read the
he's
books because I love him.
Yeah, he's great. I really like him.
Okay, so now is your chance to plug any socials, links, books, anything you want to. This is your time to put all your stuff out there.
Okay, awesome. So my sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So mine are pretty simple. SabrinaVoermanAuthor.ca is my website. And then basically, if you search Sabrina Voerman, all my platforms come up. So I've got Facebook, where I'm Sabrina Voerman Author, S. Voerman on Instagram. And then I also do book reviews on another Instagram, just Sabrina. You can find it through my current Instagram. It's more my like personal one, but I do book reviews and stuff on that. That's pretty much it for socials. I'm on Twitter under s.foreman as well. I'm not active on it, but I am on it.
Okay. And I will link all of her socials and her website in the description as always. If you want to check out my sponsors and our publisher, Quill Crow Publishing House, you can find them at quillandcrowpublishinghouse.com. You can purchase their merch at thecrowshop.com. I highly recommend all of their merch. I'm still saving so I can buy like all the jewelry they just came out with because it's amazing and I'm so excited about it. And their socials are at Quill and Crow Publishing on Twitter and at Quill and Crow Publishing House on Instagram and TikTok. Go check them out. Show them some love. They're amazing, woman-owned publishing house, women ran, diverse. Um, they're amazing, and they're small publishing house, a small company that is trying to make it possible for all small authors to get their work out there, and to diversify the industry. So check them out, show them some love. They are amazing. And
They are.
if yeah, if you want to know more about me, you can find me on Twitter at jax2_0, on Instagram at jslarmore.com. My website is jslarmore.com. Uh, Instagram is at jslarmore, and my website is jslarmore.com. And on TikTok at Jax the Tiny Raptor. So all of these will be in the description. And thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to get the Blood Coven, the book one in the Bloodbound series. Be watching the Quill and Crow page for Sabrina's book to come out in September. We are so excited for it. Sounds amazing.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
I was really excited to have you here. Thank you for coming. And thank you all for joining us on Ravens and Writing Desks. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications.